Lauren McCluskey craved love when she started dating Sean Fields. But behind the facade of a supposed gentleman was a convicted felon named Melvin Rowland. Despite Lauren's desperate attempts to break away from him, she became the victim of blackmail and even death threats. How did this tragedy happen? Who was Melvin Rowland? How it came about and what happened next, you can find out in this video. Lauren McCluskey was born on February 12, 1997, in Berkeley, California, to her parents, Matthew and Jill McCluskey. After her birth, her parents decided to join Washington State University and moved to Pullman, Washington to work as professors. Pullman is not only known for its university, but also for its stunning natural scenery. Nestled in a valley surrounded by wheat fields and rolling hills, the surrounding area offers numerous opportunities for outdoor activities. From scenic hiking trails to sprawling parks, there's plenty to explore and enjoy here. The town itself offers a lively atmosphere with a variety of bars and restaurants frequented by families and college students alike. The community is close-knit, and residents appreciate the friendly atmosphere and proximity to nature that makes Pullman a welcoming place. Lauren's childhood was filled with outdoor adventures. She spent hours climbing trees, roaming through forests, and exploring the outdoors with her brother, Ryan. Fearless and loving at the same time, she showed an extraordinary athletic talent from an early age. At just 8 years old, she joined the athletics club and soon excelled in disciplines such as high jump and hurdles. Despite her sporting success, Lauren remained down-to-earth and friendly, always open to new challenges and encounters. In addition to her studies or training, she often spent time at local animal welfare centers caring for cats. In addition, she volunteered for the Special Olympics and often worked in local community centers. On an ordinary day in her senior year at the University of Utah, Lauren's roommate Alex convinced her to go downtown for a fun night out. Although Lauren wasn't usually the party type, she eventually agreed. They spent a fun time together and eventually decided to head to a popular local bar called the London Bell, where they were met by a 28-year-old bouncer named Sean. Sean checked on the girls all night and Lauren was obviously impressed with his attention. She decided to give him her phone number, which was something unusual for her. Sean texted her the very next day, and soon after, they were planning their first date to climb. During their time together, Sean told Lauren about his life, and although he seemed like the perfect gentleman at first, he soon showed some controlling tendencies. He insisted on always spending time with her, and his control over her became more and more extreme. For example, he would freak out if she didn't answer calls right away or if she didn't meet his expectations. Lauren's friends became concerned about these signs of control and dominance in the relationship and tried to bring them to her attention. Despite her friends' concerns, Lauren continued her relationship with Sean. However, one day, she came across his ID and discovered that his name was actually Melvin Rowland. This revelation terrified Lauren and caused her to question the true nature of their relationship. She immediately started researching the internet, and to her horror, she found out that the man she knew had actually assumed a false identity. Sean, or rather Melvin Rowland, was actually 37 years old and had committed a long list of misdemeanors. Not only was he a convicted felon, but he was also a registered sex offender who had spent 14 years in prison and on probation. Melvin Rowland was born on May 12, 1981 in Brooklyn, New York, and had a difficult childhood from the start. When his adoptive parents died suddenly, he was placed in a group home at the age of 15, where he remained until he was 17. He then attended a private school in Colorado before deciding to move to Utah to participate in the cadavers program. There, he claimed to pursue a medical career. But his dark side soon became apparent when he was arrested in March 2004 on serious charges and sentenced to a long prison term. Despite several arrests and stays behind bars, he later found employment with the Black Diamond Security Group and worked as a bouncer at London's Bell Bar. That's where he met Lauren. After finding out who Melvin really was, Lauren made the decision to end the relationship. But Melvin didn't accept her decision. He refused to leave the apartment because he was living with her. Despite Lauren's efforts to break away from him, Melvin didn't let up. He continued to stalk her, such as showing up on her campus again and again, or simply taking her car to maintain his control over her. Lauren received strange messages from unknown numbers suggesting that Melvin was monitoring and controlling her. For example, these messages claimed that Melvin killed herself because of her and that she should do the same, which was obviously not true. These threatening messages heightened Lauren's fears and increased the pressure she was under from Melvin. Eventually, she decided to contact campus security, an on-campus facility responsible for the safety of students and staff, to clarify the situation and protect herself from further attacks. Jill was also concerned about her daughter's safety and suspected that Melvin herself had sent the message with a fake sender. In another situation, Jill turned on campus security after Melvin took Lauren's car after their breakup and wanted to return it at the stadium parking lot. Since many of Lauren's friends weren't at university during fall break, Jill worried that Lauren might find herself in a potentially dangerous situation on her own. To prevent this from happening, the security guard promised to send someone with Lauren. Eventually, with the help of her mother and the university administration, she arranged for the car to be picked up anonymously. Despite several visits to the police and campus security, Lauren continued to receive many threatening messages in the weeks that followed. The threats became increasingly troubling, and eventually Lauren was blackmailed into paying $1,000 or nude pictures of her would be published, including one featuring her and Melvin. In desperation, Lauren paid the money, hoping that it would mean the end of the threats. Although she desperately sought help, Lauren turned to a campus police detective that same day. He informed them that a case had finally been opened against Melvin, based on the threats and blackmail attempts. However, the detective also stated that it would take some time to prove Melvin's involvement in the news, and that Lauren would have to be patient for now. On October 22, Lauren received a suspicious message from an unknown number pretending to be from a deputy chief of the university's campus police and calling her to a meeting. Suspicious, she contacted the campus police, who confirmed that the message did not come from them. This was obviously another attempt by Melvin to lure her out of her apartment. That same evening, Lauren had a yoga class, which was good for her to get her mind off things. While she was on her way home, Lauren took the opportunity to call her parents to tell them about the distressing situation. Suddenly, her parents heard horrified screams, followed by an abrupt end to the conversation. Worried, they immediately alerted the emergency services. Another student found Lauren's backpack and phone outside the apartment complex. But by the time they arrived, it was too late. Lauren's lifeless body was discovered in the back seat of her car, a tragedy caused by a fatal gunshot wound. Shortly after the tragic murder of Lauren's, Melvin was recorded by a new security camera leaving the scene of the crime and unsuspectingly meeting up with a date who was unaware of the horrific events. Although the mere meeting of other women was already forbidden according to the conditions of his probation, he went into the company of a stranger. After dinner, Melvin returned with his date, took a shower, and was subsequently dropped off at a nearby cafe. The clock ticked inexorably, and shortly after midnight, the police recognized Melvin as he walked lonely down the street. They followed him to a local church, where he turned Lauren's murder weapon on his own temple and pulled the trigger, a horrific end that shattered the horror of this tragedy. The case of Lauren McCluskey is a harrowing example of how quickly a young woman's life can turn into tragedy. Lauren, a talented and dedicated student, was the victim of manipulation, abuse, and ultimately murder by Melvin Rowland, who hid his dark intentions behind a false identity. Melvin Rowland, a convicted felon and sex offender who deliberately chose his victims to exert his control over them, is an example of the dangers that people can face in relationships with violent and manipulative partners. Despite the warning signs and the efforts of her friends and family to break away from him, Lauren was at the mercy of Melvin's ruthless attacks, which ultimately led to her tragic death. The case also highlights the weaknesses in the criminal justice system and victim support. Although Lauren reached out to the police and campus security several times, and despite the numerous threats and extortion attempts she faced, she was not adequately protected. The authorities may not have been able to recognize the seriousness of the situation or take adequate action to protect it before it was too late. Ultimately, the case of Lauren McCluskey is a call to strengthen measures to prevent and protect against domestic violence, abuse, and stalking. It is important to recognize the warning signs of such dangers and to provide support and resources for victims so that they feel safe and can be adequately protected. Lauren's legacy should serve as a reminder that such tragedies can be prevented if we work together as a society to help and support victims of violence and abuse. Thank you for your time and interest in my video. If you liked it and would like to support my channel for free, I would appreciate your like. With your support, you help me grow my channel to reach more people. If you don't want to miss other videos, feel free to leave a follow and activate the bell when you want to be notified. Thanks again for your support, and see you soon.